Welcome to week 13. This week we're dealing with revolutions and political contention of various kinds. There are a number of very important issues that we're going to deal with. What exactly is contention? Why do we have it? How do we resolve it? Revolution is one of those things, one of the sort of the big issues that political scientists spend a lot of time thinking about and concerned with. Um, what are some of the different types of revolutions that we have? What's the difference between a political revolution and a social revolution? In a lot of instances, when you see what happened in France, that was a much more thoroughgoing revolution. When you look at our American Revolution, that was clearly a political revolution. We were unhappy with the institutions of colonialism, and we wanted to replace them. That's a difference between saying we're disgusted with the whole thing and we want to rip the whole, regime up by the roots. That's really what the French attempted to do. It's also what the Russians attempted to do in the Russian Revolution. Um, the Chinese Revolution had, similar kinds of thoroughgoing consequences, and that's really why we tend to say that this is much more than just a political revolution where a type of government or even a set of rulers is being replaced, but instead you're looking at a fundamental reordering of society. Those are the things that we tend to think about that cause us to be really, really concerned and to wonder, if this is the best way to resolve these kinds of issues. Um, this chapter deals a lot with causes and effects. Why do revolutions happen? Ted Robert Gurr has the famous thesis that that people rebel when they become relatively deprived. And that is to say, when their conditions are improving, but not at the rate that they think that they should be. Absolutely deprived people generally make pretty poor material for revolutions, largely because they're too busy just trying to survive. But even those types of folks can just say enough is enough and decide not to be governed. And that's something that's a really good book by James C. Scott, Everyday Forms of Resistance, that talks a lot about that kind of thing, that people in poverty find ways of not consenting. And that can have potentially revolutionary implications. So in this chapter, we're going to be looking at, of course, the Arab Spring. We're going to be talking a lot about, again, the differences in kinds of revolutions. How you have subaltern groups that will oftentimes rebel. How in a lot of instances revolutions can be by elites for elites. Coups d'état tend to be of that kind of variety that generally result in military dictatorships that are largely in the service of the elites of their country. Um, there are a lot of different examples of religion of revolution in this chapter. There are a lot of different explanations for why people tend to act out in revolutionary manners as opposed to finding ways of reforming government. Um, does ideology play a role? Of course it does. Does opportunity play a role? Certainly it does. Hopefully, we're going to learn a lot about this topic because this is this is one of the big issues in this class. Again, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise them in the forum or email me or drop by my office. So let's learn a lot this week.